Welcome to another conversation with artists with Money Colors. And today we have Josh Hernandez. And Josh Hernandez's work is an exploration of the tension between chaos and clarity, darkness and light, spirit and flesh. His works primarily in charcoal because the medium for him feels alive, unpredictable, and brutally honest. Its black dust becomes a metaphor for human existence, fragile, transient, capable of extraordinary beauty when shaped with intention. Welcome, Josh.
Thank you for having me,
So,
Lisa.
yeah, no, we are excited because I know you've been doing a lot, not only as an artist, but also as an artist entrepreneur. And we'd love to see some of the things that you've been doing and are working on. So I know today you're going to be working on some drawing. And if you could tell us a little bit about what that particular project is, maybe a little bit about the materials and surface, and that way we can have a little knowledge before you start working.
Yeah, sounds great. So I primarily work in charcoal and on numerous surfaces, but today I'll be working on what like my bread and butter is, which is BFK Reeves, like a printmaking paper.
Yep.
And so it's a 15 by 22 size here, and I'm going to be using my own charcoal material that I developed, my brand called Mad Art Materials, to draw it out with. I kind of set out to create a brand that of the materials that I personally wanted to use that I kind of found lacking in the art world, and so just kind of designed around what I prefer to use, and a lot of people ask me what I use, so I was like, well, I mean, I
Absolutely.
could come up with that, yeah, and help other artists out as
Absolutely.
well. But yeah, so I'll make a chaotic portrait drawing right now. I have something in mind with like a blindfold portrait going on. So yeah,
Awesome. Awesome.
um, yeah. So I'll start off here. I have my matte pastel palette, which is kind of like a charcoaly pastel material. It's just black and a foam tip on this knife here. This like knife. I'll start drawing off with that. So here we go. I'm just laying it out, but I'm ready whenever.
Yep. Josh, in your artist statement, you say that you confront the dark depths of the human condition with the light of redemption, where each mark becomes a conversation between imperfection and divinity, between the broken and the whole. Can you talk to us more about your artistic journey and your desire to connect to an audience on such a deep spiritual level? When did you begin on this journey, and how do you feel like it's evolved over time?
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot there. So, um,
There is.
yeah, I've always drawn, even as a little kid. I'd be the kid in the back of the classroom, not paying attention to much of the study, but just drawing instead. I found a lot of solace in that, and I was very encouraged by my parents growing up to create my art. And I never thought of it as a something I'd pursue per se. I just thought of it as something I enjoyed. And so the more I created, um, the more I loved it and the better I got. I wasn't necessarily all that skilled or talented necessarily. I just did it so often that I got better over time, and just a genuine love for it. And so I ended up going to school for design because as a creative, I wanted to do something that actually made money. And I didn't think at the time, I kind of just heard that it's hard to make it as an artist. So I never pursued making it as an artist and just kind of went the design route instead, more commercial route. And as I did that, I shared my work on the side, my artwork, just for fun because my wife told me to, because I hadn't really shared it much. And once I did, it quickly gained traction. Videos went viral of my work, and like the art career kind of found me. And for me,
Mhm.
it's a God thing. For me, it's not something of myself because I clearly didn't set out to do that. But um, so I kind of found myself doing what I love, um, even though I didn't necessarily pursue it full time, and now I get to enjoy that. So that's kind of how I actually became an artist by career.
Mhm. Now, when did you start thinking of your work kind of on a more deeper level where it's almost message
Mm.
driven, you know?
I think that was right around college. I was taking um, some like life drawing classes, and as I learned to work with charcoal for the first time, I recognized this this tie between how I was feeling or just the emotive intensity, emotions, background, and like human condition that I'm familiar with, and we all are familiar with as people. Being able to kind of communicate that in these motions, these human like expressive motions in the work. Something that I don't like. I think you could find in painting as well,
Yeah,
although you can't be as quick in painting, right? Like you have
right.
to kind of be a little more systematic, and then drawing is usually faster, but it's harder to get a larger scale piece done in a very brushy movement. So for me, charcoal was kind of the way to find the balance between creating quickly and dramatically, but
Mhm.
also creating something almost painterly and large. So that just captured me from the get go, and I haven't let it go since.
Yeah, and almost like, because drawing, it's such an immediate form of expression. And I
Hmm.
see that when you started working, you're putting down all these marks,
Hmm.
and kind of getting a feeling of the environment, and it just
Yeah.
makes me think like, what is going on? I mean, right now I know we're having a conversation, but when it's just you
Hmm.
working with the surface, can you talk to
Hmm.
us more about like, what are you thinking about? Like, do aha moments come to mind, past experiences? What are what is like your inner talk as you're working?
Oh yeah, it kind of depends on the day. Some days are a little more difficult than other days, and some days are really easy and flowing. So it used to be more so when I would create, especially at the beginning of my career, it'd be a little bit more of a almost systematic approach where I'm really thinking about the piece and really just trying to make the piece work. Now that I've drawn so much that I can kind of do it without thinking, now my mind starts to wander towards things like experience and spiritual matters
Yep.
and more so just what I'm experiencing as a whole and what I've seen somebody else experience or what I'm thinking about when someone else is on my mind. That allows me to create in a way that expresses that very organically.
Yep. Yep. It's kind of
Hmm.
like reminds me of, when you first learn piano, you're kind of just doing, the practicing the notes or the keys. And then once you can
Yeah.
really, you can just really play. And it's almost like
Hmm.
jazz. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
You're just in the moment, impromptu, like letting those marks. Now, do you find when you're doing kind of mark making, do you feel that certain marks over time, you're learning the language of your own mark making. Are you finding
Hmm.
that certain marks for you kind of evoke certain feelings back to you and maybe the viewer who looks at your work?
Oh yeah, there's for example, I mean I have a lot of different mark making um kind of effects that I do with my work that evoke different things. But I would say like the more aggressive kind of chaotic strokes like this
Yep.
are more of a distressing, more of a darker and intense type of feel to them, right? And
Mhm.
that's kind of portrayed through how I do it. I feel it while I do it, and so I think that communicates it pretty effectively. The whole intensity of what we experience. Yeah.
I had a teacher once. He's kind of well known in the drawing arenas, but Dave Pasalacqua, he's no longer with us,
Okay.
but he used to have us draw. He'd have us in this paper would be on the floor. We'd have a model, and we'd have a long stick, which our charcoal and stuff was at the end of, and he'd say
Mm.
right hand, left hand. He'd have us switch to the point where when you were drawing, you felt like your stick was touching the figure, like you felt like you were almost
Mm.
sculpting with the tool. Do you kind
Yeah.
of feel like that when you're like? because I can see how you're using your wrist. You feel like you're sculpting the forms, like you're feeling the forms of that figure.
Yeah, I don't think there's a better way to describe kind of the approach of just sculpting um, in your mind, sculpting out like three dimensional a three-dimensional thing onto the paper, right? It's like you're really pushing and pulling these different directions and these different tones and values that really just ends up it's just sculpture in a more in a flat sense, right? You're applying it flatly, but that's definitely what it is. I think that's the best way to put it.
Yep. And also, it seems your graphic design background seems to fall into play here because really design is what a form of abstraction, right? And
Oh yeah.
we've
Hmm.
got like text and images, and it still becomes a pictorial format. It still becomes a visual image area, but one of the strengths in your work is that sense of design, pulling together, whether we call it the chaos and the clarity, or we call it the construction or the deconstruction.
Hmm.
How do you find that balance as you're going through? Like, where do you see that pinnacle point that you say, okay, it's time to stop? You know what I mean? In other words,
Yeah.
you're not trying to make it perfect because then you'll lose that dynamic
Yeah.
quality, right? With the
Yeah.
abstraction. So if you can talk to us about, you know, what's going on in your head when you're working and you know when to stop, or you know when something is working and it's not.
Hmm. Yeah, it's kind of hard for me to explain what that process is like inside, but I would say that as I feel better and better about the direction I'm going in and that it's making progress in the right direction, like really um, communicating what it is that I had in mind. And that's just more accurate communication as I go. I just keep going. But as soon as I start to feel the idea of just moving a little bit too far away from what I initially kind of wanted to portray in terms of emotion or in terms of like the drama, then that's when I know I'm finished. Like sometimes that's really early in the piece, and other times
Mhm.
it's after a really long time of really pushing and pulling the piece until I really communicate that. And it's a little bit spontaneous when I feel that the piece is done. And other times it's very ongoing and demanding. So yeah, I think that once that piece starts to really fall apart a little by little as I add more, then I'm pushing it too far. But
Mhm.
if it's still becoming more and more powerful as a piece as I
Yeah.
work on it, then I'm going to continue to work on it until I reach the end of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever take a piece that you just said, "Oh man, this I either overworked or I just don't like it," and then smudge it like all out and then pull from that environment, like pull from the
Oh
loss
yeah.
of can you talk to us about
Hmm.
something like an example maybe of that's happened in the past?
Yeah, there are some pieces for me that aren't working, and they're not as powerful as I want them to be, and I'm not getting the same feel that I had in mind. And as I realize that, I end up having to really mess it up drastically, and that means that I'm going to do something that's probably going to ruin the piece, but that'll open up another door where I could take it in a
Yep.
different direction, right?
Yep.
And sometimes that just means that coming back to the piece the next day and not being okay with it might mean just covering it with a splatter of paint or something like that, right? Which
Yep.
make it forces me to be a little bit more proactive in the creative process and making something even more even more challenging, which ends
Yep.
up being better for the most. It
Yep.
almost always works to kind of ruin a piece if it's not
Yeah.
working. Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny. Another artist friend of mine, Baron Story, he's
Hmm.
kind of known for his really great drawings, mostly with pen and ink, but also in color and stuff. And he used to say that
Okay.
if you're bored or things aren't working on the piece, all you're bringing is boredom to the piece, and you got to do something really
Oh yeah.
drastic to to
Hmm.
make it. Because at
Yeah.
that point, right, you got nothing to lose, and yet
Yeah.
art,
You got nothing
you
to lose,
know,
right? Yeah.
yeah, and like, it's kind of like life, right? If your
Hmm.
mistakes are what teach you new things, right? If you always did everything
Oh yeah.
the right way, or whatever that even means, right? Then you never
Yeah.
learn anything. But if you step from the water's edge and you take a chance on something, you're going to bring in something
Hmm.
really new. So sometimes growing, whether it's as a person or as an artist, being willing to make mistakes. And I think if you could talk to us about your journey with that willingness, because I
Hmm.
think too often, especially the younger generation, all they see is online is everybody's best hits, right? They never they never see
Yeah.
the,
Yeah.
oh, this came out like crap, you know. They never see the boo-boos and
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
the struggle, and so they think that to be an artist means that everything you do comes out perfect, right? And we all know that's not
Hmm.
true. But having gone through that journey, as I have, as many artists do, and we all continue to, what are some insights or things that you
Hmm.
could share with, younger artists, that life and art is a journey, and mistakes is a part of that, and mistakes can teach
Hmm.
you amazing things.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a hard thing to kind of have artists go into it willingly because um I think it's so important to be confident in your abilities, which takes a lot of practice, probably a lot more than people anticipate. But it's so
Mhm.
important to in that confidence with your abilities to be uncomfortable with what you're doing because that means that you're pushing yourself as an artist. And so there's that idea of getting so good at something that you're confident and then
Mhm.
trying something so crazy or so out there that you're uncomfortable with
Yeah.
where you have to push yourself as an artist, right? So I would say that's like the balance that we should all seek for as artists. That's how we produce our best work.
Yep. Yep. And I think
Hmm.
the artists that have continued to grow are the ones that are willing to make the biggest mistakes. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah. Yes,
You
yeah,
know,
exactly.
and I think that's because they realize the gem and the excitement that can reveal itself. Because there's going to be a point, and I'm sure you understand this as being having a design background, that
Hmm.
you can make anything and bring it back. You know what I mean? Like
Oh yeah,
you
yeah.
you can create a sense of chaos and bring it back, but you got to that
Hmm.
point by doing it, right?
Yeah.
You got to that
Yeah, if you've
point
done
by,
it once, you know you could go back to doing that. So might as well keep pushing it and mess it up.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. And I think it's that beauty that comes out of that messiness, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
That people are so attracted to. And I think that's what
Yeah.
they're probably attracted to with your work is, like you said, out of that chaos. So much
Yeah,
beauty comes out of it. You know what I mean?
for
The other
sure.
thing is, I think when I'm just watching you work and watching you put down the marks and things, it's a whole
Hmm.
body experience, right? And there's not like,
Hmm.
I'm not see, you know how like you see some people, they'll hold their pencil in a certain way and then all you get is a little bit of wrist action. You're using your whole body,
Yeah.
when you're working. Um, and I
Mm.
think it's almost like, as you're putting down marks, you're moving in, you're moving out, you know what I mean? Pressing, turning the pencil and the instrument. Can you talk to us about the way it's kind of like a sword, you know what I mean? If you were like uh, like I don't know, what you call those when you
A
get
night.
knighted, like a knight, or something, you're
Yeah.
wielding a
Yeah.
sword and you watch them and it's just this, they're not just going stab, right? There's this whole
Hmm.
thing, this
Yeah.
dance that happens. Can you talk to us about
Hmm.
that motion, or that using the stick, using the thicker ones, thinner ones, that type of stuff?
Yeah. It's definitely a dance almost. That so the more you do it, the better you get at balancing it out. But I try to since the beginning of the piece and every single piece, I try to be as broad and as gestural as I can to kind of cover all the scary white space, right? And after that, it just kind of refine, you push, and then you go back out. It's
Mhm.
covering the whole thing And if you get caught up too much in the little things before you're supposed to,
Yep.
in the details, then you lose sight of the big picture. So I think
Yep.
just yeah, just carrying that momentum into the piece is so vital for the life of the work.
Now, are there things that you do? Do you do yoga or do you do aerobic activity, like something that keeps you um where those muscles, you know what I mean,
Mm-hmm.
are so you don't get stiff, Well, then again, you're still
Yeah.
super young, so you don't have those problems yet. But I mean, like, there is like a thing. And, I know certain people that have these like techniques or these stretching exercises that kind of help them, especially when their work is kind of like yours, it's very physical of the body,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Are there
Mm-hmm.
things that you do or meditations before you start drawing that kind of bring in a certain energy to the piece before you start?
Mm-hmm.
Because, sometimes we're like, oh gosh, we just like went grocery shopping or had to go to Home Depot or have all these distractions that are non-art
Yeah.
related,
Yeah.
right? And then, oh, we need like
Yeah.
a transition, you know what I mean? Like when we get
Mm-hmm.
in our studio to work, is there anything that you do to transition from kind of the outside into that connectivity that you have with your work when you're working?
Mm-hmm. I well, there's a couple things. I kind of have different approaches based on if it's a mental activity or a physical activity. So I mean, I like to play soccer a lot, and that's pretty physically demanding. And I go to the
Yeah.
gym every day. So to me, that's kind of the the rhythm of that really helps me keep pace with the work, with the
Mhm.
artwork. Also, mentally speaking, like I'll pray every day, every morning I read my Bible. So that for me is vital in what I do.
Yep.
It
Yep.
centers me, and so and and it kind of gives me the confidence to go throughout the day without really depending on myself too much. And I also draw so much that it's like almost like a conditioning effect where like I'm not
Mhm.
waiting all that much until I'm inspired. I'm not
Yep.
waiting till I feel the rhythm. I
Yep.
have to get into it, and then along with that kind of comes the inspiration and the rhythm afterward. I think that might be a little bit countercultural at times. Some artists wait until they're completely inspired to get the full effect of the work, but I find that almost every single time, not every time, but close to every single time I start to create something, I end up getting inspired through the
Yep.
creative process. So I
Yep.
think it's just like it's there. It's just waiting for you sometimes, you know.
Yep. Yep. Now, do you find that, when you're working, do you listen to music? Do you listen to maybe audio stories?
Hmm.
Or are you more in a silence kind of a silent space?
Lately, I found myself listening to mostly cinematic classical music.
Ah, I
So
love that.
and that just kind of gives me a meditative and also deeply emotional um, kind of environment to create something beautiful, but also to kind of keep driven and keep working and pushing that beauty.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's usually
Mhm.
what I listen to.
Do you use
Hmm.
any incense? Do you have like any essential oils? Like, is there any kind of scent kind of inspirations that you bring
Hmm.
in, or?
I haven't really dabbled in that intentionally. I
Mhm.
think that I found that kind of the smell of the materials I work with, whether that's oil painting or charcoal drawing or anything like that, my studio starts to smell in distinct ways from the material. And that,
Yep.
as I walk in, it kind of just automatically starts to push me into creative mode. And I don't, but
Yep.
that's just in passing. That's not necessarily something I decided to do. You know, it's just
Yep.
it
Yep.
just happens that way.
Yeah.
But I haven't really experimented all that much with like candles, essential oils,
Yep.
or anything like that. Yeah.
Now, where do you look for inspiration? Like, do you travel? Do you look at different books? Like, how do you fill up your cup?
Mm. A lot of it is music. A lot of it is reading the Bible. I find some very fascinating stories and like an assortment of emotions and circumstances that are powerful,
Yeah.
and like lessons that are powerful, as well as talking to my friends and family and just the overall experience of life. I don't have a smartphone, so and so I don't really browse the internet all that much. The
Yeah.
only thing I do browse for at times is maybe for certain references or creating references, and kind of just getting a collection of faces that I can kind of mesh together
Yeah.
on a piece of paper,
Yeah.
right? And so, which is the kind of the way I prefer to work, just so that I'm not so stiff in what I'm creating. But yeah, so I would say my inspiration comes more so from my personal experience. Like I don't even have a TV in my house or anything like
Hmm.
that. So I just try to read books and go outside, do a hike with my family or ride a
Yep.
bike. But that's kind of
And
my approach. I think it's a little more
yeah,
peaceful that way.
yeah. Well, of course, you're speaking to my generation. I mean, that's what we, kind of grew up on. Maybe about a year or so ago, I
Hmm.
actually deleted my social media. But
Oh, good.
yeah. So for me, and it's funny, I listen to you remind me so much of my daughter. And just to show she reads the
Mm-hmm.
Bible, she doesn't do social media. She engages with the world in her work. And I think that's what I think a lot of people are kind of missing is actual engagement with the world. I was just doing something before we got on this. I
Hmm.
had a lecture I did with my patrons, and I was just mentioning something about garbage in, garbage
Hmm.
out. In other words, if whatever you bring into your life will come out
Yeah.
into work. And if it's garbage and
Hmm.
it's useless and it's destructive
Yeah.
and it's depressing and all of those things, those are going to affect you. It's going to affect your work. But if you bring in things that inspire
Yeah.
you, that uplift you, that you engage with other people, you're learning things, those are beautiful, wonderful things that are already there for us to bring in. And,
Hmm.
you know, doom scrolling isn't going to be doing much
Yeah.
good for, really anybody with that. And so,
Hmm.
and there's another artist too. I actually have one of his books, but I think I belong to he has an email, but he goes out into the woods, Jeremy Mann, and
Hmm.
he talks so much about how much, nature and the experience of just disconnecting, like just
Hmm.
literally disconnecting. I think he used to live in LA, has really made such a difference, like in the work
Hmm.
and, like the mental attitude and just little things like that. Because
Yeah.
I think those all make a difference in like the work we create, right? And,
Oh,
you were
yeah.
talking about process and about, you do work from photographs. Where do you get your models? Like, do you just see somebody at the grocery store and go, "Oh my God, you'd be great"? Do you mind modeling for me? I'm an artist, or do you kind of hire professional models, or do you shoot them in the studio? Can you talk to us a little bit about, because the reference that you shoot, right, is a big part of your
Hmm.
process because it's capturing it's the beginning of where you're starting with the expression, right? So the lighting and
Hmm.
everything is important. So if you can talk to us about your references and how you shoot them and things like that, that'll give us some insight of
Yeah.
where that process starts.
Well, yeah, I have an assortment of different approaches I take, depending on what I'm trying to do. I don't personally shoot my own references. I do have an art director. He shoots a lot of stuff for me, um, I think that my focus on the work is the expression and the feeling and the emotion behind it rather than the individual, right? So I'm not
Yeah,
looking for like features per
right,
se
right.
necessarily. It's
Hmm.
more so the mood that I'm trying to
Right.
capture. So I usually try to move away as best I can from the individual in the reference, instead
Yep.
to a more atmospheric, kind of ominous or androgynous kind of um, uh, person, right? So that instead of being drawn to focus on who is this, it's kind
Hmm.
of like, whoa, what's happening here?
Right.
Like why does this remind me of what I felt, you know?
Yep.
And then the
Yeah.
person can kind of enter the piece more than they can just feel like they're looking at someone else. Now they're entering the piece as if they are experiencing
Right.
those things again, right? So um, that's my that's what I love and value is
Right.
the viewer's experience implemented into the work, and not just my own preaching of what I want them to think, but more
Yep.
so like a collaboration in the work from the viewer as well. And that means that I move pretty far away from the reference, and is the reference is just a starting point, more like structure, right?
Yep.
You can't completely get away from the structures of the face, otherwise it's no longer a face.
Right.
Also, if you draw a face really bad or paint a face really bad, it's going to be very evident to everyone, even non-artists. So it's so important to kind of just have that structure and have those different lighting values in locked down, and
Yep.
then moving from that, right?
Right.
It's the
It's not
foundations.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, because it's not a likeness portrait. It's a symbolic
Hmm.
using the human form as a form of expression to say something else with the work. And I think having those,
Exactly.
like
Yeah.
just looking at the piece you're working on right now, Josh, there's a lot of what we call open and enclosure. Some places have closure, some places have this
Hmm.
element to let the viewer get there. You know what I mean? Like the background starts to
Yeah.
have a relationship with the piece. You know what I mean? And it's not like how
Hmm.
you would see something just completely rendered out, where it's so trapped
Yeah.
into like a silhouette, you know what I mean? I think the more
Hmm.
you have that sense of mark making and openness in the piece, that's a doorway, you know what I mean? Like that becomes a
Hmm.
somebody to put themselves in there, you know what I mean? Or maybe something they've
Hmm.
seen or something they've experienced, right? Because
Yes.
I think
Exactly.
universally there's lots of things we share with other people, right? This universal consciousness
Exactly. Yeah.
that we have. And
Hmm.
I think if we feel it, there's going to be people that are out there that are going to feel it too, right? Now, do you
Yeah.
find that your titles, like when you title something, does that
Hmm.
give somebody a hint to what it is you were feeling or you understood about that piece as a whole in the
Hmm.
end? Like, in other words, it's kind of like a title to a story. The title of the story sometimes gives you a window to what something's about, and it's not
Yeah.
always literal, right? So
Hmm.
do you find that the word or words are important in your work in terms of either writing about a piece? Because I'm looking at a lot of the stuff that you have on your website as far as your
Hmm.
artist statement and things like that. And they're
Hmm.
very carefully crafted, you know what I mean? Well thought
Hmm.
out and deep and introspective. So
Hmm.
is words part of your process in any way?
Definitely. A lot of times it comes from inspiration from something I read, or prayers or scripture or even just experience. And so I want to like I try to carefully um not be too literal in what
Mhm.
I'm kind of communicating, but
Yep.
still directed, right? And
Yeah.
inspired. And
Hmm.
so that's what I intend with the words that I write. I'm not a copywriter. I'm not like good at that. I'm not poetic in that sense as much as I'd like to be, but I do find it valuable, and so I do take some thought and time into what I title the works, and make sure that there's still a direction to go through with the titles along with the piece, but also leaving them open ended enough for that person to continue in the idea, not so that the idea is not finished for the viewer, right? I really desire for the viewer to put some work in on the artwork as well.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the more that the viewer engages their own sensibilities, their own imaginative faculties, the more that actually brain waves go on in the brain and the more memorable a piece becomes because
Mm,
the person can kind of put their own story into that, right? Their own
hmm.
feelings. And so they're
Exactly.
engaging, on many levels. So just in terms of that being interested in writing things down, do you journal every day? Is there a part of writing that is more like you do with drawing? It's like a daily thing.
Yeah. When I'm in the Word, when I'm reading the Bible, I do try to journal. It's hit or miss sometimes. but at my best, I'm journaling and writing down prayers, ideas,
Yep.
thoughts, and just the human experience as a whole. That
Yeah.
gives me just some direction in what I'm going to create that day. Because I mean, I draw almost every day, but um, yeah. So then that's a important practice for me. The reading and
Mhm.
the writing is so essential. It's so much more essential for me than browsing, um, social media browsing and other things of just like more of a entertainment that's not edifying in any way. So
Yeah.
to me, that's where I like to spend my time.
Yep. Yep. Now you
Hmm.
mentioned, about that aspect of, deconstruction and construction. Do you find
Hmm.
that it's a push and pull, or is there more, it starts deconstructed and gets more and more constructed, or is it just like kind of
Mm.
back and forth?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I get asked about a lot when I'm at a show or a gallery or something like that. They'll ask me, "Is this person falling apart or coming together?" And I'll tell them, well, when I was making it, they were falling apart, and then I came back to it and worked on it some more, and they were coming together. So like it depends on the experience in that moment. You know how our experience as people fluctuates, and I think that my desire is for the work to fluctuate along with it. So um, yeah, so it's both for sure, and it
Yeah.
changes just like our
Right.
experience changes. Hmm.
Yeah. It's about being open then, right?
Yeah, exactly. And there's high highs and low lows, and
Yep.
those are evident. It's the human experience, really.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Now, I know that charcoal has been able to give you that kind of graphic quality, that expressive quality. It's such a malleable, expressive medium. Can you talk to
Mhm.
us about charcoal for you as a language to communicate, to create art with? And just the different types of charcoal that you obviously certain ones, harder ones make more bolder marks, the vine charcoal is a little
Mhm.
bit different. Can you just
Mhm.
talk to us about your language through charcoal that you create with?
Yeah, I like to be as minimal as I can with my materials and just use the absolute essentials, which means that so that I can just be more instead of thinking through what I'm picking up, I'm more thinking through the expression and the direction that I'm taking the piece in, right? And spending less time having to think about what I'm going to use in the part of the piece. I find it more effective to just have my go-to things and learn how to utilize those tools for a numerous amount of complex techniques, right?
Yep.
So I the only thing I really use is essentially three things. I use this woodless charcoal pencil, which is very dark and it's soft, right? It's my own brand, Mad, but
Yep.
it goes as dark as you want it to go. It's as soft as it gets, right? Very deep black. I'll show you a little bit here. So it just goes
Yep.
really dark, and
Yeah.
I think that instead of needing a lighter or harder pencil to go lighter, what I think is more important is your ability to control the weight
Yeah.
that you're pressing down on the material with,
Yep.
and that way you control the darkness and lightness rather than having the tool dictate what you're doing and having to pick up another pencil, right?
Yep. Yep.
So I like to use the materials that'll go as dark as I need them to in the same grip
Yep.
as light as I need them to. So
Yeah.
that's I'll use this woodless charcoal pencil. I'll use this these pieces of charcoal are willow charcoal, and I stay away from vine charcoal because it's essentially just a lighter version of willow charcoal. And willow charcoal goes a lot darker and it has the same qualities as vine.
Yep.
It's harder to erase, but if you have control of it, it's you could go darker quicker. So that's why I
Yep.
just stick to that and then mastering that instead of messing with the vine charcoal, which is great, but I just rather I find it more effective to use willow, and I just stick to that along with the other bread and butter piece, which is just the compressed piece of charcoal.
Yep.
So it's
And then
essentially
you
the same thing as the pencil, but just not as pointed.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So it gives it different marks.
Hmm.
So you
Yeah.
also had, like you started out, you kind of had a sponge palette kind of thing
Yeah.
that you started out with, and you also had some different erasers.
Yeah, so that sponge palette is here, and I think for me, this gives it a nice smooth background to work on with value. You could also make
Mhm.
an entire drawing out of this, which
Yep.
works great too, but it's less detailed. So so I'll use this for that part, and that's more of a pastel, but it merges beautifully with the charcoal. And then I have this kneaded eraser, which is probably overdue for me to toss out and grab a new one, but it's
Yeah,
because it's
we
really
should
dark. But
there's
yeah,
to look
yes.
through that.
Yeah. And then I have a detail eraser, which I don't have to use, but it's a little bit easier than having to mold this thing to the tiniest point after
Exactly.
a few,
Exactly.
movements. But
Exactly.
that's it, except for the blending stump, which is just smudging, right? Like
Yeah.
you would with your finger, but it's a little bit more effective to use this sometimes and less oily than your fingers. So
Do
um
you ever use
yeah,
brushes
that's
along
it.
with the palette charcoal? Do you ever use brushes with that?
I don't use brushes to apply it, but I do use brushes to kind of go over top of the whole piece to give it some atmosphere. If I'm getting a little bit too contrasty, I'll
Oh yeah.
dilute the
Oh yeah.
contrast, right, by just
Mhm.
brushing over top. But no, I don't necessarily apply the material with a brush because
Yes.
I mean that's kind of what the foam tip for this thing is. It is essentially like acts like a brush, like an oil painting brush
Yeah.
with a paint with loaded with oil, a brush loaded with oil. Yeah.
So you came up with this whole series, your Mad Charcoal line. Like, what
Hmm.
made you or had you think like I got to come up with my own stuff? Were you just dissatisfied with maybe the paint, the excuse me, the art manufacturers that currently have charcoal, and you just were really looking for something along your own lines? Like, how did you start on that journey?
Um, yeah, good question. What I initially did was I had just collected the materials I worked with and found most effective, and people were so many people were asking me what I used, and they wanted to use the things that I drew with because they were watching videos online of me creating with these
Yeah.
materials. And, and so what I did was I put a kit together, and I just kind of no, I didn't really make any money off of it. I would just put the kit together of the materials and then be like, here, if you buy it like off me, I buy it from them like full
Yeah.
price and just
Yep.
give it to you. Especially if you're international and you can't like find the same product, I'm like, I'll ship it to you myself. And just because I cared about those people and wanted to kind of support their artist journeys, especially if they want to use the same material. But
Yep.
I found pretty quickly that people wanted to use the distinct materials that were kind of harder to find,
Hmm.
and kind of like the woodless charcoal pencil or the pastel palette. Like these things are hard to find, and
Hmm.
I think I was like, if it was more like this, I would like it more. I would be more useful. So then I started to kind of find other areas of people that create these art materials, and then just went through so many different art materials, testing and using and seeing what I like best because I always like pushing the edge
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
my own work and my own approaches. So once I found the stuff that I was like, this is exactly what I need forever, and that's it,
Hmm.
and like the
Hmm.
absolute essentials, I was like, okay, this is
Yeah.
what I want to come out with. I want to come out with something that's branded beautifully. I know like there's some brands that do art materials pretty cool, but I think most brands are a little bit boring. So
Hmm.
I was like, okay, I'm gonna bring like a beauty to
Yep.
the presentation of the materials, right? I'm gonna bring a
Yes.
beauty. Like you should, if you're making something beautiful with the material, the experience with the
Yep.
material and the material itself should be beautiful as well. I really believe that.
Absolutely.
So
Yep.
so and I didn't see that happening all that much. And so I was like, I'm just gonna go ahead and try it, even if it's really difficult. And set out to do that along with my artwork. So because I saw there was two groups of people that were really drawn to my work. There was
Mhm.
people that want to draw that way and want to learn and push the boundaries of themselves as artists. And then there was
Yes.
collectors that really enjoyed the work and spoke to them.
Yep.
They have no interest in creating work. They want to experience the work that I make. And
Right.
I didn't want to just take care of the collectors, which of course I love them and they're very meaningful to me and I want to make what they want. But I also don't want to toss out everybody else that's inspired by the work to create more, right? I want to serve them as well. And
Absolutely.
that's why I took upon the endeavor of art materials. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because when we're an artist, what we feel about our work is not just it's not like, oh, I'm an artist, that's what I do for a job. No,
Hmm.
you're an artist, that's who you are, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
everything you do, if it's about creating an experience, of course it's going to come up in a product line or something that you create, or
Hmm.
those things I think are intrinsic to who you are. And I think you're a good demonstrator to others that don't just do something because you think that's what is expected of you. Just be who you are. You've got everything that you
Yeah.
need inside of who you are to express who you are, and just walk
Hmm.
that journey, right? Walk within that
Exactly.
authenticity, and you're going to be fine, and
Hmm.
I think too often people are like, well, I think I got to do it this way, or I got to do that, and then they get so lost down the line of what they think they need to be, and
Hmm.
all they had to do is just be. And
Yeah.
I think that's just a great message for other people to take from what you're saying is
Hmm.
everything that you do, it's all going to come from the same source. It all comes from the same
Hmm.
source. So in terms of
Hmm.
like, just you came up with this product line. Now there was everybody knows just like making art and learning to draw and paint. There's a journey there. There's
Hmm.
hardships and just craziness. Is there
Hmm.
anything that you would have done differently? Okay.
Hmm.
Knowing everything you know about, launching a brand of artist
Hmm.
material that
Hmm.
you tell other people if they were like, for instance, wanted to develop their own paint or, something along
Yeah.
those.
Yeah. I would say that at first when I started this, I wanted to make a bunch of different things that fall in line with the brand and didn't really I wasn't as focused with just the stuff that I used. I was brainstorming a bunch of different like art materials, right?
Hmm.
But I kind of realized pretty quickly that my expertise and what my
Yeah.
like my the thing that I love most is the thing that I'm
Yes,
going to do the best at, right? So
exactly.
and I'm obsessed with charcoal. I love charcoal. I want it to be the main thing that I create for pretty much the rest of my life,
Yeah.
Lord willing. And so I just thought, I'm going to stick to just designing materials around the discipline of charcoal drawing and just do the absolute best I can do with those materials and not really worry about all the other things that people do better than me. There's so many better oil painters than me, so why would I try to create something for them when they know better, right? So, but
Mhm.
I do draw with charcoal more than anyone I know, and so I'm confident in what I can
Mhm.
find is effective for charcoal drawing, and
Yeah.
so if I just kind of keep it in there, I know that I can deliver the best thing for the people that desire the same thing as I do. Yeah,
Was there
so
a
just
was there
sticking
a,
to that.
was there a lot of R&D? Like, did you have to do a lot of things come back? I mean, was it just kind of a repackaging of, manufacturers that already had product out there, or did you actually have to get back into the science of the charcoal and change the chemistry in any way
Oh
to
yeah,
make it your own?
yeah, I've learned so much about the chemistry of charcoal, and so like there's all these different types of plants used, all these different types of methods of burning the charcoal and all those things. So yeah, I went through a lot of different stuff and had a lot of things refined and
Mhm.
changed according to what I desired for the work. That's best for the work. We're even working on a liquid charcoal right now that's not set to like we don't even have a release set because we're still in the prototype process and that like nobody manufactures that except for maybe a couple like one or two brands maybe that have it already that they do it themselves personally like they like in their own personal factory. So with that I've been mixing different ratios of different materials to make this liquid charcoal in my studio by hand with
Mhm.
so and once like I come up with this once I perfect I should say
Yes.
this recipe that I've been working with, and I've already used it in my artwork a lot, which I love using it. But once I do get that recipe perfected, now I'm going to get that manufactured. So it's not even like I didn't just find this thing off the side of the road and slap a label
Exactly.
on it. Like I'm actually like this is the only stuff I draw with. Like
Yeah.
this is all my materials. Every single
Yeah.
piece that I have in a gallery, every single piece that I've shipped out worldwide for collectors, like this is made with the things that I developed. I think it's
Yeah,
so important to stand by it and not just slap something on it just to take advantage of the people that enjoy my work that want to draw like me. I'm not going to do that. I
mhm,
want to make
mhm.
sure that like I'm living true to my word and using the
Exactly.
materials, you know? Yeah.
Exactly. Well, that's so interesting in terms of the science behind it. Can you give us some
Hmm.
little tidbits about like, okay, what kind of differences in burning, or different plants? I wouldn't even have thought about charcoal and being plants. I guess I don't even think about charcoal like what it was. I mean, I know it's burned in some way, but I never
Yeah, yeah,
thought
yeah.
about it to be honest with you. So
Well, it's
that's
actually very, yeah, it's very simple in terms of science when it comes to charcoal because, um, well, at least at the basics, like you have a burnt branch of willow here, right? Of a
yeah,
willow
yeah,
branch, like the plant, and
yeah,
a vine charcoal is actually a vine branch that's burned in a certain way to kind of maintain its integrity. And so the only difference of when you're drawing with it is not what factory it came from or who burned
exactly.
it or who made it in their backyard. It really is what plant it is because it's just um it's a different material, right?
Yeah,
It has different properties to it naturally,
yeah,
and which I think is really cool. And so um that's what I've kind of learned about charcoal, that it's not all about who made it. It's more about what is
where it
it? Like
comes
what's it
from.
made of? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's
Mhm.
kind of like, paint, like when they get the pigments from different quarries, you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm. Yeah.
do any of these plants, I mean, just out of curiosity now, any of these plants, I mean, does it matter what part of the world, because sometimes you get different rain quality for that particular, I mean,
Mhm.
is that any of that even relevant when it comes to that?
I don't think so because only certain plants grow in different climates, right? So
Yeah,
it doesn't really affect it all that much as long as it's that same type of plant.
yeah, yeah,
Um, yeah, and then also you kind of have different materials to bind the material together. Like compressed charcoal is bound by different types of materials sometimes, and or like in the pastel palette, you have elements of clay in there as well, which makes it the
uh,
pastel, right, instead of
yeah,
charcoal, because it really
yeah,
is just charcoal pigment combined with clay to give it a
yeah.
more almost like buttery soft feel. And
Yeah.
so,
And does the
yeah.
clay come from a different place? Does that make a difference? Like different kind of quality?
Mm. Yeah. I mean, I think it does. I'm not quite sure exactly which clay is used for this one because
Yeah.
that's kind of hard to figure out. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
That's just like so
yeah.
interesting because then it like I mean, I think as an artist, you really need to know your materials. We
Hmm.
talked about some surfaces in the beginning. And I think
Hmm.
having, understanding your surface and what that is and where that comes from and the quality of
Hmm.
that and how it's made and the materials that
Hmm.
you use. I do realize in the art market, there are probably
Yeah.
more hobbyists than there are professional artists. So a lot of major manufacturers,
Yeah.
they cater to the hobbyists, right? Because they
Yes,
make things
exactly.
super, super duper crappy and cheap
Yeah.
because they want to
And
spend three
affordable.
dollars for like a
Mm.
tube of paint. But
Yeah.
then you take out like, a Williamsburg or a Michael Harding, and you
Hmm.
can just take a red and just literally touch it with the tip of like a toothpick, and the white will then turn pink. You know what I mean? Like
Uh-huh.
it is so rich. It is so
Yes.
gorgeous. It is so, because there's not all these additives, right? That's
Exactly.
basically what they're doing is they're just
Yeah.
filling it with all these just junk fillers. And I understand
Hmm.
why they're doing it because nobody wants to spend $60 for a tube of
Yeah.
paint,
Yeah, and
you
it
know,
makes sense if you're not making artwork that's like any
exactly.
incredible, right? Like it's
But
just for
it
fun.
does make a difference.
Mm.
What I used to say, Josh, is when I really, we all have journeys about like, well, when we change and we buy different materials. And
Mhm.
I remember just the days that I started to really embrace more artist, professional handmade paints and brushes and things like that. I was like,
Yeah.
where were you all my life? You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
you're like, that's why the color is so rich, So
Mhm.
I think it's the same thing with your charcoal, your charcoal line that you're doing. It just when things are made by people who care,
Hmm.
when things are made by people who are not just talking the talk, but they're walking the walk, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It makes all the difference in the world. And in the article, I'm going to include some links. And again, to not only join Josh's mailing list to see when the new liquid charcoal comes out, but
Hmm.
to take a look at his Mad Charcoal line of products,
Hmm.
and to test them out. I myself have ordered them, so I'm really excited to get mine. I ordered the big enchilada, so the whole kit.
Yeah,
And
the whole kit.
as
Yeah.
I'm like such an somebody who really appreciates branding and design. So of course I
Mm.
was like, I just like this as an art object. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
Like to
We
have in
even,
this,
yeah.
yeah, even have in the studio. So
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
excited about that. So what I'll do, Josh, is I'll link the products and maybe show some pictures in the article so people can definitely purchase those things and get on your mailing list. So when your
Hmm.
new things come out, to take a look at that. Now I know also, Josh, you do teach. Can you talk
Hmm.
about your journey as an artist, and also somebody who teaches, because when you teach, you have to kind of bring what's kind of in your head. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah, it's
Well,
challenging. Yeah.
it's to a conscious level. Even the
Yeah.
fact that of you being able to, well, that's because you draw so much, but being able to
Hmm.
draw and talk at the same time. So
Yeah,
many
yeah.
people don't know how difficult that is. That's
Well, it
incredibly
depends how much
difficult.
you draw, right?
Yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah,
So can you
I mean,
talk?
I teach through courses mostly, right? Like in person, I'm a little bit like busy to do that at the
Yeah,
moment.
yeah, yeah,
I do like when like a public school teacher will reach out or something like that, an art teacher, and I'll actually, if they're local, I'll come visit the school, and if they're not local, I'll do like a Zoom chat, and I won't charge them or anything, but and spend some time with the kids, just want to inspire them and to kind of encourage them to pursue what they love. But
yeah,
when it comes to like a more of a formal teaching and like a longer teaching format, the way that I can cut out that time is that I record like a full on course. And I have that available online also. That's through also madartmaterials.com. But along with the material, so you can get like the whole thing. You can get all the stuff you need except for the paper and then the course to follow along with it, which I want to make sure that it's as simple as people can to get and to go into it and as
yeah.
clear as it can be to know what you're doing with it. I don't like I didn't kind of grow up wanting to teach per se, but since I've done this for so many years, I've realized that a lot of the things that I know, people don't just come across that knowledge. And so when they ask me those repeated questions over and over
Oh,
again that are so
exactly.
simple to for me to answer, I'm thinking, oh,
Yeah,
you know what? Like, let me just make sure to put this together, package it up nicely, make it enjoyable and
yeah,
high quality, and then make sure that they have access to that, and that could help their artist journey and they can put some investment. And I do some like tutorials as well on YouTube all the time, like weekly pretty much. And I think that that I want to make sure people can access those even without having to pay for my course. Although if they're a serious artist, I do value them actually investing in their art career, and actually spending the money sometimes. And I'm not making it anything expensive, but spending their time and money into getting better as an artist is important, not
yeah,
just the free tutorials are fantastic. That's great, especially for somebody that's trying it out, seeing if they want to do it at all. But the person that wants to go
exactly.
to the next level, like take some time and invest in your career. Invest in
Yeah,
some good materials, invest in a good
yeah,
easel,
yeah.
invest your time, and sometimes that means courses too. It doesn't have to, but so that's why I still also make sure people have access to that. Yeah,
And from the person, taking a workshop or something's perspective,
yeah.
you've invested years. So now here it is, you're telling, it's like almost like when you teach, you're giving away, like, if I could start over, this is what I
Mm-hmm.
would have told myself. Like, in other
Uh-huh.
words,
Yep.
for a very nominal okay, costs. Like if you look at,
Hmm.
if you go to Art Center, what is it, $300,000 investment over a
Yeah.
4-year period. I mean,
Yeah.
seriously, you're
Yeah.
getting people who are not only giving you the best product stuff, and I can't stress more to people.
Hmm.
The day you go from like the regular art supplies to really good ones, you're like, oh my God, it's like,
Yeah.
whoa, where you been all my
Yeah.
life, right? And
Yeah.
then the other thing
Yeah.
is working with when I was, learning and growing up, that going to college was the only option you had. Today with
Mm.
Zoom and videos and all the stuff that we have,
Hmm.
and being able to even get somebody to answer questions and having access and with the social videos and stuff that you're doing, that was
Yeah.
never available. But
Yeah.
with that, okay, we have the same predicament that we have with the artist materials, is that everybody who has a camera now is going to just
Hmm.
start flooding the market. And I mean, I've seen, oh my goodness, people doing things that are not only not going to last, they're going to be toxic and probably kill them over time if they continue to do it.
Yeah.
So there's like
Yeah.
really bad information out there.
Uh-huh.
And I
Yep.
think, one of the things that I really, truly, and sincerely love about the Muddy Colors environment is the artists that we either show or that write for it have had some solid background in the ways that you should be doing things, that
Yeah.
are really giving out the right information and not, steering people into something that is wrong. And I actually ended up doing for Muddy Colors a series of videos just on like the technical aspects of literally what is pigment. It's not just like, oh, let's just buy Viridian green. Well, what does this
Yeah.
say? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
is it really Viridian green, or you're looking at the pigment codes and just basically understanding what a brush is made of, what these different
Hmm.
hairs do, and what these things mean. So people have to understand that there's so much more behind that, but isn't being taught anymore, right? Somehow all
Yeah.
of those things got lost. And
Yeah.
this atelier that you're setting up, through your videos, is it's for very nominal cost. People are getting years of focused
Hmm.
understanding and working with a medium to the point of actually having a product line and knowing what goes into those materials and testing them through your own process. There's
Hmm.
extreme value there. And so
Hmm.
I think those are things as I think what I like to think of a teacher, Josh, I know because you're saying I didn't really start out teaching,
Hmm.
is that you don't have to have four walls like a classroom to be a
Hmm.
teacher, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We teach
For
through
sure.
our life journey, right? And I think
Hmm.
with your faith, it's not about, it's about the deeds, right? It's
Yeah.
about what you do and how you walk through your life and the choices that you make. Those all come from a very special place, and you're walking
Hmm.
consistently with your journey. And I think those things read through, at least to me, and I share in a lot of the things that you do in terms of faith and all of that other stuff as well. So
Hmm.
I relate to walking in that. I always kind of
Hmm.
say, be a blessing and not a burden, right?
Yeah. It's
And
true. Yeah.
however you can do that. And of course, you're going to have people that maybe take advantage of you, but I always think about it. I'm not here for those people. I'm here for the other
Hmm.
ones. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
And if
know,
they do,
you,
it's their problem. It's not my problem.
exactly. That's how I
Yeah.
feel. That's how I
Yeah.
feel, because there's always going to be more people that will, and I'm sure you get these, that will write
Hmm.
to you and say, wow, you really helped me. This really, changed
Hmm.
thing for me. And then you can just say, you know what, something that I didn't think I did that was even important made a
Hmm.
difference for somebody else. And that's kind of like a wow factor in your day,
Oh yeah. Oh
you
yeah.
know? So
Yeah.
another thing
People
I
find it valuable.
absolutely, can you
Hmm.
also just talk about, your work? Do you do stuff? And I know where you're going to give us a tour at some point of the studio and some works that you're
Hmm.
working on. But do you have a series in mind that you're working on, or is it kind of more a one of, or maybe the whole work kind of becomes a grand series? If you
Mm.
could talk to us about that.
Yeah. So right now I have more so, and I can kind of show you around a little bit the studio now that I'm kind of pushing this
Yep.
piece, kind of diluting it. But
Yeah. So I mean,
um,
whenever you
yeah,
want it for you, whenever you want to stop with that,
yeah.
certainly you can.
Okay. Yeah, it
But
sounds good.
I kind of want to talk about like, just the work as a whole, right? Because we
Hmm.
kind of
Yeah.
dived into process and things like that.
Yeah. So right now I have what kind of, and I'll give you like kind of a perspective of the studio space here, the gallery space. Well,
Yep.
first off, this is Julia here. She's the COO, CFO of the whole project of Mad Charcoal, and this is Joey over here. He's my art director. He edits and shoots all of my work, and that way I could just focus on the work. I don't really have to focus on the posting, and I could have a non-smartphone. I could have a dumb phone, right? And then Andrew's
Yeah.
up there upstairs somewhere packaging away materials and paintings that are going out. But anyway, so that's my team. That's my team here.
Yeah.
So I've kind of been exploring different materials to work with in the charcoal setting. And along with that, I've also been exploring about pretty much like four different subject matters currently, which is like I start off with my bread and butter, which is more of the portraits, right? So there'll be
Yep.
male portraits, female portraits, fiery ones, expressive ones, just people in general, even figures sometimes. So people in general. And then I also have my faith-based works, which are more of the Christ-centered works or the biblical stories and
Yep.
things like that. And then I have my Western works, which I'm like, I like the whole cowboy scene, the Native Americans, and sometimes it's horses or things along that. I'm from Arizona. I'm from Phoenix. Originally from Los Angeles, but living in Phoenix for so long, I've kind
Yep.
of grown to love that. And so
Awesome.
that's the third. And then fourth, I have what I call dreamscapes, which are a
Oh,
little
what?
bit
Yep.
more of a fantasy type of environmental
Yep.
landscape artwork, which is kind of
Yep.
based off my dreams and just some more like spiritual elements to environments. So
Yep.
those are the four different directions I kind of go in currently.
Yep.
That might change, but so I'll kind of show you around the little gallery space here. It's kind of a mess in here because it's just a work day. We're not showing anything, but um, I've been doing these charcoal drawings on raw canvas. So you can see this is just raw canvas here.
Yep.
And it's more of a gestural portrait. And with this gunmetal frame, the only frames I use are these gunmetal floater frames. So I kind of give this more of a museum style, like high level gallery style um, work that's still just at its core a charcoal drawing instead
Yep.
of just having that on a piece of paper on the wall or framed.
Exactly.
Now I have this as a actual gallery wrapped canvas piece, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and so this next piece here is Christ's body on the cross, but the cross isn't really visible, and above is just his torso, right? And so that's where the focus is. This is done with just charcoal and gesso on this wood panel, and so this one's sealed down really well with spray fixative and also varnish, but I wanted to kind of give it a more of a drawing feel to like an actual panel painting, which is kind of
Mhm.
hard to accomplish, but that's the direction for that. And
Josh, what fixative do you
yeah,
like using? Do you use the Krylon? Like, what is your choice?
I like the Blick fixative. I've gone through so many different types of fixatives, but I like the
Yeah.
Blick final fixative. It's so basic.
Yeah.
And it's not even the nicest one on the market, but it works the best for me. So that's kind of what I stick to.
Does it make the
Yeah.
charcoal, like, do you lose a lot of the, like, the tonal range? Like, does it make everything
Mm-mm.
darker?
No, I think it kind of gives it a little bit of a sheen, which I enjoy. I
Okay.
really, it's very minimal, if anything. It hasn't really changed my works all that much, especially the ones on paper. Yeah, yeah. But this is
I love
another
that piece. I love
canvas. Yeah,
that. Oh, I love that.
yeah. So
What is
this is a
that done
dreamscape.
on?
This is also on canvas. This is raw canvas with charcoal. So gallery wrapped in gunmetal frame there.
Love that. That is
And a little bit
gorgeous.
of white chalk to heighten
Yeah.
the fabric there.
Oh,
But
that's gorgeous.
yeah, and this is just a plain old oil painting.
but still
both of
wonderful.
these.
Now, do you start
Yeah.
out with the charcoal and then and you fixative and then like add paint on top, or is that just straight
No,
paint?
these two are specifically oil paint. That's
Okay.
it on canvas. Yeah.
Yep.
So dabble in that sometimes. I'm probably going to go away from that for the most part going forward. These are
No,
also
those are
these are
beautiful.
drawings. These are drawings that are charcoal drawings that are mounted on or like hung with
Yeah.
magnets. So what I do is I'll put like a nail there, right?
Oh, for
You can
very
kind of see,
cool.
and then these magnets
Yeah,
are just they're not damaging the paper at all, and I just have them
exactly.
clipped on, so they look like they're nailed to the wall and they're floating off the wall, but really
Yeah,
they're
very
just magnets,
cool.
and the drawings are not damaged whatsoever.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, these
Now, do
are
you
on
like
BFK
gesso?
Reeves.
Do you gesso your paper at all, or do you just work right on the BFK?
No, I just work right on the BFK, and I love the quality and the texture of it already.
Yeah.
So it just works phenomenally. Actually, I just wrapped some frames with or some panels with BFK Reeves. I wet the paper, stretched it over the panel, and I'm going to be
Yeah.
working on those as well. So yeah,
Yep.
here's a couple more oil paintings. This is a Daniel in the Lion's Den. It's like 6 feet by 5 feet painting, which is
Wow.
pretty big. Um,
Is that
it's a
stretch
newer one.
canvas or is that like a cradle pan?
That's canvas. That's stretch canvas
Okay.
oil. Yeah. Um, as well as this large one here. It's in a competition. It's not available, but it's a Christ being scourged oil painting. Um, yeah, and then we have some more landscapes back here
Oh, I
behind
love those
this.
little landscapes. Oh my God, I
Yeah,
love those.
a small little collection of little
Now,
pieces. They're
Josh, are these
magnetized up.
available? Are they available on your website?
Most of these are not. Only some of
Okay.
them are at a time. We kind of hold on to a lot of the inventory and are careful about what we do kind of put out, right? So a lot of
Yes.
this is available to view, but not most of it is not available for purchase. Mad
Mm,
Charcoal on madcharcoal.com you can kind of see what is and isn't. But
right.
yeah,
Is
so
it
this
through
is
your,
some of
I know you have a
yeah.
few galleries. Is it
Hmm.
reserved the inventory for your galleries or?
Yeah, some of it is reserved for our galleries, and other pieces are sometimes commissions that are going out, or just like a personal collection. So the
Mhm.
pieces that we are kind of currently showing online and different like in social media and all that, those are pieces that are usually available or are part of a print drop or something like that. Yeah, but
Awesome.
yeah. So these are on the outside are on arches cover black, and these are oil pastel drawings, and you can kind of see the different colors on the stray lines
Yeah.
that are they kind of come together and create this illusion of like an oil painting, but it's on paper, right? Kind of
Yep.
this one too. um yeah, and then we have another pixelated charcoal drawing, pixelated effect on BFK Reeves.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Then down here we have these little figures, kind
Oh,
of an
I love
expressive,
those.
yeah, an expressive just
Are
take
those
on
done from
figure
life,
drawing.
Josh, or photos still, or from your imagination?
Some of them are, but a lot of them are done from photos as well, just to get like a variation in post and posture. Yeah,
So
yeah.
your
So
art director kind of is the one that seeks out the models and takes pictures for you?
yeah, at times, and then sometimes I'll draw just just sitting in front of random people.
Oh,
It
yeah,
depends.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah. I've got some sketches and stuff on the floor here, but um, these are 1 minute sketches. I kind of upload these on Instagram sometimes. That's why they're on the floor. I
Yep.
do these in 1 minute
Yep.
and kind of just process to document the process. I have collections and stacks of them, but those are not available for purchase. I just do them because they're warm ups, and then I'll put out a book with with uh, with all the 1 minute drawings.
Yep.
But yeah, and then I have all my material there, and here are some raw stretch canvases and some um, paper, some BFK Reeves, and some arches cover on the panels there
Yep.
that I kind of stretched today. Here's a piece that I'm kind of working on, kind of experimental a little bit with the power lines and the person
Oh, yeah,
falling.
very
But
cool. Very
yeah,
cool.
yeah. And then these are white chalk on black paper drawings.
Oh,
These are
nice.
also 22 by 30. Yeah. So we have like Christ in the wilderness as he's being tempted, and then I have more of a blurry effect and a motion blur effect on the right, and more of a darker a deep emotional image on the left.
Right,
Yeah,
right. Now, how do
yeah.
you like, in terms of obviously there's a lot of emotion in the portraits, so it's almost like the models have to be almost actors or act. I mean, can you talk to us about
Hmm.
like how do you capture that, like the photography to even begin that process?
Yeah, I mean it's a lot of sifting through a lot of magazines and images and stuff, and you have to really change them up as well, right? Like
Mhm, mhm.
I don't want to steal from
Right,
other
exactly.
artists, right? And so
Exactly.
yeah, it's important for me to yeah, really change up the images I'm working from and also combining them sometimes. But yeah, so we have another this is actually charcoal on panel as well with this is me like using my liquid charcoal and then kind of overlaying it with actual charcoal. And then
Is there
two
white
two
on
more
there
of that.
too, or is that like
Yes.
the, oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's lifted. It's lifted with a little bit of white. Just a
yeah,
tiny bit. It's not very
yeah,
much though.
yeah, yeah.
It looks like it is a lot, but it's very subtle with the white lifting, like the heightening of the drawing. Um,
Awesome.
yeah. And then we have like more of these partial portraits with the motion blur and all that. So
Now I know you got
that's
go
that's
go
pretty good.
back to you have some text on a wall.
Oh yeah, here.
Yeah, this is not
This is
the
yeah.
end. Okay,
This is
so
not the
talk to
end.
me about the meaning behind that.
We needed something to title kind of the space for now, which for us, this is a new space. We've only been here a couple months. We used to be in this more of like a warehouse where it's more of a working district that we were in the middle of. Everybody
Yeah,
around us made cabinets and different types of wood structures, but we were in the middle of all of them in our own suite, just kind of making art, and it was really weird for us to be there, but we kind of made cool friendships with them. And but now we get the chance to kind of have our own gallery type studio
yeah,
where where for us this is not the end. It's like saying this is just the beginning of what we're doing, you know, as a team, as a Mad Charcoal team. Because
yeah.
really it is, it's not just like I make the art, but like I can't do any of this without the team, you know?
It's a team effort,
Team
and you're
effort.
lucky to have
Yeah.
that. You're lucky to have that. Now you have an
Yes, very much
upstairs
so.
too. I mean, is that
A
like
little bit.
storage area? Yeah.
Yeah, kind of storage. This is another crucifixion piece. This one's on its way out. It's sold, but um yeah, and then I'll show you a little bit upstairs. Is more of a packaging and material space. I have extra canvases here. There's another Jesus painting there. This is charcoal and oil, kind of an experimental mixture there, but it worked
Yeah.
well. Um, this is Andrew here. He's packaging and shipping some materials right now. I think it is.
See, so it must have
But
been Andrew that's going to get my package out to me because I already got a
yes,
little.
yes, that would be Andrew. That would be from here. I could show you a little bit of the material here. So
Yeah,
here's the knives. Um,
yeah.
we have. You want to show us a kit,
Oh,
Andrew?
the
Yeah.
box. See, that's what I got. I got the whole box. It's
Yes. Yeah.
gorgeous, and I
Yeah. So
love
it's
just the
magnetic.
branding on it.
Hmm. Yeah. So this is like a magnetic box, so you can reuse it for the materials once you're like
Yep,
kind of, you got a bunch of scrap pieces of charcoal. You can open this up and then just keep them in there. Um,
absolutely.
yeah. So we want this presentation. We like value the presentation of it. So we have the foam to really keep the stuff protected. Should get to you just fine. And I have all the woodless charcoal pencils, blending stump, knife with the pastel palette, and then we have compressed charcoal, willow charcoal, kneaded eraser. All there. Even your kneaded eraser comes with a little box, um, which yeah, so it's pretty minimal, but I think it's just the essentials, right?
Yep,
You know, yeah. But
absolutely.
thanks, Andrew. But yeah. So everything that I ship out in terms of art, of actual art, that's original, I'll ship it in wood. So you can see one going out right now. This is an
Yep,
art kit on top of this is a piece of wood branded with the MAD right there,
yep.
engraved in the wood, and this is some really heavy duty gaffer's tape on the edges, and it's two pieces of wood. So this thing it will not break and not fold. There's never been a time when we've had one damaged,
Yeah.
which is really cool. But it is expensive way of shipping, and it's a lot of work, but we value the work. So
Yeah, I hear you. I
you
work
know?
on dimensional cradled panels, and we actually
Oh
have to
yeah.
build. Thank God my husband's good
Yes.
at doing that. Although one time
Yes.
we had to go to somebody professional because the minute you get really big, you actually have
Hmm.
to create a stand so the forklift can keep the thing upright. So see,
Yes.
I
Yes.
hear your pain in terms of that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So like the stuff that we can, that's for the paper pieces, right? So when it comes to actual when it comes to the bigger pieces, we do get those outsourced for the really really big crates, you know, when they're going out overseas. Um yeah. So I know what you mean by that. Thankfully we don't have to build those. Yeah.
Exactly. Now, the other thing is, Josh, in terms of, moving forward, future wise, have
Hmm.
you thought about like where's this all going? You've got your beautiful artwork. You've kind of put it into four different series. You've got the whole brand. Do you think
Hmm.
about where the future lies for you?
Yeah, we're talking about that almost every day. I think that we're really focused on this art material here because um, we want to make sure that everybody that wants to use this or desires something like this knows that it exists,
Yeah,
um, to get into their hands. And we love to get the feedback from people. We want to make tweaks on it whenever we can to make it as best we can, and and just grow that. And we already have so many different materials that we have in mind to come out with next. Like I use so much white chalk, right? White
yeah,
pastel for those drawings.
yeah,
I want to come out with the best stuff I can for that. The
yeah,
liquid charcoal, like we said, and detail eraser. Like I don't have that yet, but I want to have the nicest, most precise one I can find
yeah,
to use for that. But also for in terms of the art, it's becoming more and more exclusive. I used to have a lot of like I just kind of say like list all the work that I would do, and lately I've been only really sharing my best and final pieces. So little by little, that's getting more expensive and more expensive, and it's going up pretty quickly. Um, so as that kind of climbs, I know like a lot of people are like, well, man, I years back I bought a piece from you for $500, and now
yeah.
it's 2000 right now. Like what's going on, you know? But you
Well,
know
they can get
it's
a
just
little piece. There's the littler
yeah,
pieces,
yeah.
right? They can get the
Well,
little
now yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's Prince. Now it's Prince more so.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. That's
Hmm.
true. Well,
Yeah, yeah. So that's what we have in mind for the future.
now, is there anything else that you would like to either add or talk about that we kind of haven't discussed as we kind of wrap things up and um, anything in general or
Um, I don't know. I just want to encourage other artists to if they're serious about it to really pursue it, and that means that you might have to learn things that you don't necessarily want to learn, but that's to get you to where you want to go, right?
yeah. Mhm.
I think it's so valuable to consider that and to do it, because if you only do what you want, you're never going to get to where you want to go. It
Yeah.
just doesn't work that way. So
Yeah.
I would say like learn to be an entrepreneur, learn business, learn how to elevate your work, right? Like
Yeah.
get the best material,
Yeah.
find how to display it, take good photos. You know, all those things can be done yourself, and they take a lot of time and effort, but it's totally worth it.
Yeah.
And get better at work. Like I'm every single day, I'm trying to get better at what I do,
Yeah.
and I can see the difference in my work from a couple months ago, even. So
Yeah.
and that's I'm already a full-time artist, so like that people think that once they get there they just stop and they just kind of repeat what they do, but no, it's
Yeah.
continuously growing.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's a good message to kind of end on because,
Hmm.
if we're not growing, what do we do? We're dying on the lake, on the vine
Right,
here,
right,
if you want to bring it
exactly.
back into a charcoal metaphor, right? So
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
keep growing, keep pushing. And I think when we do that, we feel the most alive, right? We feel
Oh
the most
yeah.
alive. And so I thank you so much, Josh, for your time. I definitely will be reaching out so we can show
Okay.
some pictures of your work and your products,
Yeah.
and really encourage everybody to super affordable. I already bought mine, so I'm excited to get it in the mail. Just to even look at it as an art object. but to
Yeah.
try things, to be innovative, to see that when you
Mhm.
have an artist journey, it's not just about you're making a picture, you're making
Yeah.
a life, right? So
Yes. Definitely.
thank you, Josh, so much, and I look forward to seeing all the things that you have coming in your future, and inspired by your words and your journey and your work.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for having me. It was a really meaningful conversation. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Josh.